Today on the channel, we've got something very special to have a look at. We've got The Phantom, the complete newspaper dailies, volume number 26. And these stories are from the years 1975 to 1977. They are done by the legendary Lee Falk and the more legendary Cy Barry. And these books were made and published by Hermes Press. And look at that cover image. Such a classic panel from such a classic story. As we have a look inside these books, you can tell that the presentation and the quality of these books is second to none. Like, we have the interior of these first couple of pages. They have the skull mark in them, and we have a little rundown about who the Phantom is and about each volume from this series. The action adventure is packed with action, adventure, and humor as the Phantom only Phantom creator Lee Falk could offer. And delves into what the collection is about, what the series is about, and about the Phantom as well. And then we have what's inside the book. So we've got the stories as follows. In chapter 1, we have Star of Bengala, then we have Mystery of the Kula Ku, then we have the SS Blitz, the Return of the Terrorists, the Proposal, and the Guardian of the Eastern Dark. The Star of Bengala the daily first started in December the 1st, 1975, and ran until March the 6th, 1976. 1976, The Phantom. The first thing we see about these books is just the high quality. The presentation is off the charts. Like, have a look at the presentation compared to other books such as Few Publications. Few Publications, they do a good job with the presentation. The quality of this paper that I'm showing you right now is sort of like a glossy type paper. A matte type, glossy type paper, and it just goes to show if they put out these types of books, imagine what else they're putting out. Like, they put out the John Newton book. They also have put out many of these daily and Sunday books, and they also recently, last year, they put out the complete series of the DC series and comics that were published back in the late 80s to early 90s. Like, look at this art. It's just so very good. Comment down below if you want to be seeing more of these types of reviews where we review more Hermes Press books, and I do have a couple of them. I don't have as many daily books as like these, but I certainly have a few Hermes Press books to have a look at. These daily books are pretty much the only. These two books are. This book and the other book that I will be reviewing very soon are pretty much the only daily books that I have from Hermes Press. Only because of that is that if you were to buy these types of books from, say, Impact Comics, shout out to Impact Comics for the stuff that they store and they stock in Canberra. If you were to buy a book from there, it is pretty much very expensive. They work out pretty expensive. And if you don't live anywhere near Canberra and you live you live in outback New South Wales, you live in the country in New South Wales, the shipping on these types are very expensive. So that's why when I get books Canberra, or if I try and get a book or some storage options from King Comics in Sydney, shout out to King Comics, they do some great stuff as well. If I try and get stuff from there and it comes out to here, the shipping isn't as much as from if you went from Canberra to where I am. Yeah, these books would, because the weight of these books, it would be different to if you were just getting or buying some bag and boards. In the future, we have a video coming out about how I store my Phantom comics as well. So that's just a little teaser to what I've been working on in the last, even before this. Just look at that art. It's just very, 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 very good. Like Cy Barry, he places the blacks and the whites and the greys so very, very well. And he recognizes where he needs to put detail and where he doesn't need to put detail, which is, I guess you have to be one of those artists where you have to know where to put stuff, because if you're not getting paid the big bucks to do this type of stuff, and you're just getting paid the small amount of dollars to do this type of stuff, and you don't know how to do all the rest of it and all the detail and stuff, and you don't have enough experience behind you, then I guess you're not going to be helping yourself, basically, because you don't know how to do that type of stuff, which I think of myself as an artist, but I'm still learning. And so we have the mystery of the Kula coup. It was a daily story that was published from March 8th, 1976, and ended on July 31st, 1976. Well, how would you be? July 31st. 7th month of the year. This story pretty much went for March to July, probably 3-4 months. I think one of the things that I especially love about the Phantom, and when I read the Phantom, when I'm reading stories about the Phantom, is that I love the mystery part attached to the Phantom. I know a lot of people have said that the Phantom isn't superstitious. He just uses fear as a way to scare the living daylights out of a person that is doing bad things. And that is true in most instances. The superstitious part of the Phantom, he's not superstitious, pretty much. He's just doing what he has to do to get the things done. In case he's using fear. 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 I think this is one of those stories where there's a lot of mystery and fantasy and sort of mythological creatures, and a lot of myth and legend surrounding in this story, which is why the story probably is called The Mysteries of Kula. So I'll read this panel from this story, and it says, you awoke up, slave. Are you a bandit? So they're pretty much interrogating the Phantom. And then the text in the box says, he's still dizzy from the smoke trap. And then the next panel it says, now I see, are you the witch? Witch, tee-hee, impudent slave. And then he gets whipped. Dare will call our queen a witch, foul slave. And then the lady says, wait, oh rich, in the palace of Kula, dizzy or not, no man whips the Phantom, slave. Ah! And it is to be continued. So they put the Phantom inside this cage, with another big, mysterious person. Big human being. As a warning to all of you not to try. Move. I believe slaves will never stop trying. The slaves sleep here. Where do they work? In mysterious Kulaku, in the palace, in the fields, where else, stupid? A new slave. For Shackles, blacksmith, a big one. A Mark's one that is new. I saw him come in. I just would like to make note of this, that there's a lot of great art in this story. Even if it's fantasy and mythological and whatever, it's just very good. No wonder this story went for like nearly 4 months. It was very long. SS Blitz ran from August the 2nd. Get in there. August the 2nd, 1976, and ran until October 30, 1976. Well, compare this daily story, compare to what's actually happening in the daily stories nowadays. This story only ran for 2 months. So compare that to what is happening in the daily stories nowadays. Well, people back in the good old days would have been getting a few stories every couple of months, depending on how long the stories would have went. Back in these days, you would be getting with the saga of the 21st Phantom. Then you'd be only this saga's been running for over 2 years. So yeah. I get where people are coming from and saying, oh, but can't you just hurry the story up? Get where they're coming from. And of course this story has to do with at the presidential palace in Botswana. Of course it has to do with good old Amanda Luaga. Really good art. President Luaga with police as Blitz gang captured at sea. Well, that's the end of that story. No wonder that story only ran for like 2 months, which would have been pretty good. Return of the Terrorists. No, it started on November the 1st, 1976, and ended on February the 19th, 1977. The Phantom. Return of the Terrorists. Oh yeah, we'd just go for a little bit of a skydive, eh? Yeah. This man pulled the driver from the wreck. Will he live? Yes, you saved his life. Mind telling us who you are? Another time. Hey, our car. Borrowing it, thanks. Yeah. Just borrowing it. You're probably not going to be returned. I'm just borrowing it. UN ambassador. UN NAID. Diana Palmer abducted on arrival at Ivory Lana. Wow. Is there terrorists involved in this situation? Probably. Is it called the Return of the Terrorists? Yes, indeed. Does Ivory Lana have something to do with this story? Probably. That's probably a most likelihood. Possibility. That guy there looks like he's from the Vultures. So he's got like a bald head, but the only part that is why he's not a vulture is that he hasn't got like the little V on his head. But you can tell if a person's the vulture or not, because they would have the little V on their head. Yeah, pretty good. Good stuff. This story has a lot of depth and lots of myth associated with this story. Just going to point that out. A lot of myth and a lot of depth in this story. Using the blacks very, very well, Cy Barry was. The proposal. So we've got February. This story started on February 21st, 1977, and ran until April 2nd, 1977. So this story is called The Proposal. I'm guessing it's called that because it's one of the stories leading up to the Phantom and Diana Palmer's wedding. Which, if that was to happen, as it did in 1977, those other stories would already have been either been written for another thing that comes in the next book in this series to have been written itself. So as you'll see in the next review of this sort of daily script, daily saga, daily comic book, hardcover book, you'll see that there is an article, a Spanish article. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a Spanish article that was published, and it's about what eventually happens later in this year, later in 1977. So really, really good art, and how Cy Barry has used Diana Palmer as eventually what would have happened would have been the female Phantom. Because there's a I think it's 1950s, there's a story about the female Phantom. I'm not going to go into that. That story we can review in another day. Okay, so we've got a new story. It's called The Guardian of the Eastern Dark, and this story was recently published by a few publications in 2020, I think it was 2020, in the Cy Barry special that was done a couple of years back. It was done as the annual special, and this story was in it. And there's not just this story, but there's also, I think, sequels after this story got published in 1977. But it's if you don't have the few publications books, it's great to see these types of books and how the art in this book is presented. It's very, 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 very good. One question I do have is that I would love to see, if it, because Few Publications has already published this story and made a sequel to it, I would love to see the Ibis mystery published in the same sort of way as this. I reckon it would be pretty good. I reckon a few books that look at some of the biggest storylines, whether it be Phantom Man, whether it be the stories from the Daily script, I reckon there should be at least a couple of the biggest stories to ever be published, whether it be Sweden or whatever, published in this sort of format with the horizontal layout. I reckon it'd be pretty cool. Without editing and cutting panels out, of course. Got to be getting that completist sort of thing going on here. A great deed, well done. The Prince of Pushers, who enslaved your youth, all yours, chiefs of the jungle. A great deed, well done, a ghost who walks. What will you do now? Now I'm going to get married. Wow. Well. Next week, Diana. Well, would have this been the story that would have eventually happened and gone into the wedding? The Phantom's wedding? One of the most famous storylines to date? Well, we would just have to say in the next review of this series. The Phantom returns with Volume 27, 1977 to 1979. And with that, we have just reviewed Volume 26 of the complete newspaper Dailies books by Hermes Press. So if you want to subscribe to the Phantom Cave Reviews YouTube channel and comment down below if you want to see more reviews that are looking at some of the new Hermes Press books as well. And as always, keep Phantom Caving, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and there will be another review of the Volume 27 will also be coming out very, very soon. As always, keep Phantom Caving, stay safe.